Welcome to Accenture's Insurance News Analysis. I'm Abby Compton, here with Kenneth Saldanha, Accenture's Global Lead for Insurance. Kenneth, although we saw some signs of moderation in commercial insurance prices in the third quarter, the market continues to harden here in the U.S. That's due in large part to cyber insurance prices. Is this increase in price simply driven by increasing demand for cyber insurance products, or are insurers also offering businesses new ways to mitigate the risk of cyber attack?
Well, Abby, I think there's a lot of factors at play on what we're seeing in hard market pricing, and certainly cyber is an area where we're seeing a lot of that, but I think there's actually a broader based across lines of business and products hard market pricing right now. So most insurers are declaring very strong results this year based on being able to actually price for risk in the market. On cyber, unfortunately, a lot of the pricing is actually driven not just with offerings and what the core risk is, but the capital requirements around cyber insurance have really climbed as these events have become ever increasing in their magnitude, in the levels of ransomware being demanded, the fact that they are now also in many situations being treated as being perpetrated by political state actors. The risk associated with cyber is just dramatically higher, and we're seeing a requirement to hold much higher capital levels to write that business, and consequently that flows through into what's happening on the pricing side as well. So I do think, as you said, there are new offers and new exposures being covered through cyber, but with a lot of factors at play. I think capital is one of the major ones that is shifting what carriers have to hold in on their balance sheets to even write this business, and consequently they have to price higher for it.
Flood insurance is also in the news in the U.S. now that FEMA has changed how it assesses flood risk. What impacts do you see this having in P&C markets here and in other markets around the world?
Yeah, I think FEMA is moving its methodology, Abby, because we're just seeing fundamentally different loss patterns and exposures. Unfortunately, we've seen a string of floods and, in general, climate-driven events that have actually changed the loss profiles, both in terms of frequency and severity. Even the geographic distribution of these events is really in flux. So I think certainly FEMA is reacting to that, and it does make sense that more and more of these are at a level of impact that are federal emergencies. FEMA is more engaged in those, and so we are seeing a huge shift in the fundamental trends that our climate change is exposing us to. So we actually will see a lot of that continue. I do think the carriers are actively trying to understand what is their risk accumulation profile, what is their coverage map, as they look at what used to be a known pattern of climate exposure in different geographies is fundamentally not the same anymore. And as you know, insurers love nothing else than a sustained, consistent trend, and that's just not what we have with our climate change right now. So I think we're going to see continued adjustments from FEMA, from carriers, as we try to navigate what exactly is the expected trajectory of our losses, frequency, and severity from climate change.
It's been reported that the UK's Financial Ombudsman Service receives complaints about car and motorcycle insurance more than any other insurance product, and that more than 60% of those complaints relate to the claims process. Kenneth, is there anything unique about the claims process for cars and motorcycles in the UK, or are these more universal pain points for insurance customers?
Abby, I have a little bit of an insurance industry insider position on this, which may not be very popular with consumer advocates, right? Which is that I think this is a situation where a very commoditized and very price-sensitive market results in people not knowing quite what they bought or what they actually can expect in claims from the policy they bought. And on the back end, there's a lot of dissatisfaction. The UK, it was one of the first markets, and I would say one of the most aggressively price commoditized markets. You saw the advent of all the price aggregation the sites that have offered you price aggregation of insurance policies very early in the UK, and that's continued to be how that particularly auto and motorcycle insurance is sold in the UK. I think in those situations, customers who then pick the lowest price off an aggregator site really don't understand necessarily what's in the fine print or what's really going to happen on the back end when they have a claim. So in this situation, it's a little bit, unfortunately, you get what you pay for because you actually don't know what you're paying for on those aggregator sites. It's not unlike someone who buys the lowest price airline ticket on a travel site and then finds out that they're going to get charged for bringing their laptop bag on the plane with them. Again, this is the insurance industry insider view. I think this is a natural outcome of that highly commoditized aggregator site dynamic that occurred in the UK. I don't think there's anything unique about the claims process, as you asked about, other than the fact that, of course, it is the time when you actually find out whether, in fact, the insurance you purchased is going to actually give you what you hoped it would. So I think it is the point when the promise of insurance comes to life. And unfortunately, for the UK motor and auto and motorcycle coverage, very often there wasn't a clear understanding of what that promise was, and customers end up very exposed and clearly very dissatisfied.
Some good news for life insurers. U.S. consumer satisfaction in individual life insurance rose 13% since last year. Kenneth, could it be that the surge in life insurance underwriting we saw in 2020 wasn't just a case of panic buying? Is the pandemic perhaps a sea change in how consumers feel about life insurance?
Absolutely, Abby. I think this is, in fact, the exact other side of the coin from the conversation we just had about the UK motorcycle and auto insurance. Due to the pandemic, I think there's been an elevated sense of understanding with uncertainty and fear at the levels that it's been at. There's a new perception of value of the life insurance product. And I think more people than ever looked at their situation, their families, the risks out in society in general, and put a much higher value on life insurance. And I think that's reflected in the surveys you're discussing. So, I think this is very much the opposite end of where there may have been an assumption that, well, it's just life insurance, I don't need it, or I'll just do a basic policy online without giving it much thought. Those are still great options, but I think customers are actually giving some thought to this. The overall pandemic environment, in my mind, is absolutely, particularly in North America, where life insurance has been historically much lower penetration than in Asia Pacific or even in Europe. I think there's a good and valuable uptick in how consumers are valuing and consequently buying and gaining some satisfaction from the life insurance products.
So, Kenneth, a certain retail entrepreneur near to your heart was interviewed by ABC News on supply chain disruption. Any thoughts you want to share on that story, or maybe what insurers should be thinking about as we head toward the holiday season?
Well, Abby, for that particular retailer, so this is my wife, Amy Saldanha, who was on news with her toy store, Kitty Wampus, on supply chain disruption. My role and my position on insurance at Kitty Wampus is very minimal. I'm relegated to putting together display shelves, wrapping presents for rush times, and putting together the larger pet and animal hospital play sets. So my opinions on insurance are not really part of the Kitty Wampus strategy, unfortunately. So while I have lots of thoughts on retail insurance and how it should actually play out globally, within Kitty Wampus, I just wrap the presents. That's my role.
All right, Kenneth. Well, you'll have a lot of present wrapping to do here in the near future, I think. Great talking to you about what's going on in insurance, as always.
All right. Thanks a lot, Abby. Talk to you soon.